Internews, as you may know, is a US-based NGO. We've been working in media support and development for 30 years now. We do things all over the world, all kinds of projects, big and small, training, running radio stations, supporting media organizations. We work across about 70 countries, across all continents except, I think, Antarctica. And we have been working in Africa in 16 different countries since 1998. We also have a sister organization called Internews Europe, which also has a host of operations in various countries across the world. We're sister organizations, we have the same values, we share board members, we do the same sort of thing. I mention that particularly because our current project in Dadaab, a refugee camp, is a joint project between Internews Europe and Internews US. This is because of the funding, basically. Now, Internews is one of the founding members of CDAP. We have been working with BBC Media Action and other partners in implementing Info as Aid, which I'm sure you know about. There's the CDs in the entrance when you come in. And this is a collaborative effort with various organizations to try and advance the idea of how, I mean, as the name says, info is as aid. This has been, Internews and also incidentally has conducted a number of humanitarian surveys in various parts of the world over the last couple of years. And we have humanitarian projects. Some of our projects are specifically labeled humanitarian projects, or what we often call humanitarian information services. This is what we have in the Dadaab Camp project. It's also what we have been running in other countries, including Chad, Central African Republic, Haiti, and other places. One thing that has struck me, I'm relatively new to this, I'm the regional manager for Internews in Sub-Saharan Africa, but the process I've just described going back years much predates me. But one thing I've noticed from my own experience is that it has historically been sometimes difficult to persuade humanitarians that information is part of aid, is part of humanitarian relief, is part of emergency response. And one of the phrases we at Internews, you know, all organizations have their cliches, right? In our reports and in our pitches and in our proposals, we have this phrase which is life-saving information. And I have personally had people from organizations whose names I won't mention because I'm sure there's some representatives of it here, who've said to me, oh, come on, I mean, we know you're doing a good job, but information, life-saving information, and I think it's important, as I'm sure many of you know, to realize this is true. It's a phrase, but it's true. And the recent example that struck me was just following the news of the recent typhoon in the Philippines. And I know this may, not to belittle the extent of the loss of life and damage that is continuing to go on in the Philippines at the moment. When I heard the news this morning, they were talking about 300 dead. But everyone is comparing this to a very similar but much weaker typhoon, which was on almost exactly the same track a few years ago, which killed, I think, 1,300 people. The people who have been commenting on the initial stages, certainly, of this humanitarian emergency in the Philippines have said this is one of the, it's not the only reason, but one of the important reasons for this is that there's been a major media campaign. There's a dedicated website. There's been SMS messaging. There's been phone messaging. There has been a very concerted effort to prepare people. Watch out, there's a typhoon coming. What to do, where to go. And from what I've been reading, people have been saying, yeah, this has had a very considerable impact. So I think information does save save lives. This is part of our credo, and that's why we're interested in working with humanitarian organizations in order to make that come to life. It's difficult explaining to humanitarians, people talk about water, shelter, healthcare, protection. These are things which everybody understands save lives, they're vital. But you sometimes have had difficulty saying, yes, but people need to know where they can get healthcare, where they can get shelter, where they can get clean drinking water, and it's part of the package. One of the things that struck me recently is an illustration of just how much progress this notion has made, is that Internews has just been, what is it? Yes, the British government has this thing called the Rapid Response Facility, and it pre-identifies organizations which will go in with fast funding within 72 hours of any kind of emergency. And Internews has been recognized as part of that rapid deployment emergency intervention force. And this is a sign people are recognizing, yes, the package for relief has to involve information. And it's very important also because, as you know, when there is an emergency of whatever kind, there is a gigantic media operation that goes on with it. The major televisions, radios, newspapers, they're all there with their kit filming and standing outside the wind-beaten, flooded landscape saying, yes, this is going on here and this and this. This is for the outside world. This is to tell people elsewhere what is happening. This is also to motivate the people who are going to put their hand in their pocket, to give money to Oxfam or whatever organization is conducting a campaign. So that is very important, but that is outward going information. And what we're talking about and what we're concerned about is the beneficiaries, the people on the ground who are going to need the information to go where they need to go to get what they need in order to survive and to improve their lives. So I think I would just mention a few things that we've done. In fact, I will, it's the same finish on this, so I will conclude. One of the things that struck me in many of Internews operations is that we have used lots of what we like to think of as cutting-edge technology, SMS messaging, Ushahidi platforms, social media. We're using all kinds of ways which are becoming very central to this whole thing. And here we are also in a pretty high-tech place in Nairobi having this discussion. And as an advocate of using all these media, as we are at Internews, I would just like to throw out a word of warning, which is not to forget that what this is all about is the people. And if the people are not involved in the communication loop, then we are just bombarding them with messages. And instead of them being subjects who are taking on board what they have to do, they're becoming victim objects. And I would like to conclude on that note that we need to keep that firmly in mind. Thank you.